Commanders Nation, we are officially in the home stretch of training camp, and Dan Quinn just stepped up to the podium with some seriously important updates as this team heads to Baltimore for the final preseason test. Injury timelines, a player Quinn says is throwing a really good camp that might surprise you. Real talk on Sonny Styles' development. And a brutal truth about how special teams could make or break several roster battles heading into cutdown day. So if you're new here, welcome to Commanders Focus. Hit that subscribe button right now. We're chasing 2,000 subscribers, and this presser had a little bit of everything for die-hard fans. Let's break it all down. Let's start where every fan's mind immediately goes. Injuries. Quinn kicked things off by confirming the Commanders are heading to Baltimore for a joint practice, and he made it clear just how much value he places in these sessions. In his words, coaches genuinely love joint practices as much as preseason games themselves because of the incredible evaluation opportunities they provide. Real matchups, new schemes to prepare against, and the simple benefit of having the entire team together on the road for a few days. But naturally, reporters wanted specifics on two key names dealing with injuries this camp. And Quinn, ever the measured communicator, wasn't ready to put a firm timeline on either of them just yet. He explained he'll have a much better answer heading into next week's practices, acknowledging both players are working hard and making real progress, but he simply doesn't have a number to attach to their return just yet. Classic Quinn. Cautious, deliberate, no rushed promises. Reporters pushed further, asking whether there are certain positions where final roster decisions are proving especially difficult heading into this final evaluation week. And Quinn gave a genuinely fascinating answer about how this specific week functions almost like two separate evaluation tracks. Some players will get the bulk of their evaluation in practice reps. Others will get their shot mostly in the actual game reps. He acknowledged that injuries absolutely factor into these evaluations, specifically referencing two significant long-term injury situations the team is currently navigating. When you're already down key contributors for an extended stretch, that reality directly shapes how deep certain position groups need to be evaluated right now. Quinn didn't sugarcoat how much weight this week carries either, admitting in a surprisingly candid moment that while he doesn't love the anxiety of actual cut-down day itself, he genuinely loves the entire lead-up process, the practices, the preparation, all of it. There was also a great exchange about how this coaching staff is preparing brand new play callers on both sides of the football for the pressure of real game management. Quinn explained he's leaned into this more aggressively this camp than ever before, deliberately scripting specific down and distance scenarios during practice that only he and the equipment staff know in advance, keeping his own coordinators completely in the dark so they have to react in real time, just like they would during an actual NFL Sunday. He specifically praised how both new play callers have handled 2-minute drill situations and clock management throughout the preseason, noting that even though a conversion didn't happen in this most recent game, it did click in the previous one. Quinn was refreshingly honest about the coaching journey too, comparing play calling in the NFL to literally getting punched in the face. You're going to have calls you wish you had back. And the real skill isn't avoiding mistakes entirely, it's having the discipline not to spiral into panic mode play calling on the very next snap after a bad one. Now here's where things get really interesting. Quinn was asked point-blank if any player has genuinely surprised him with how they've performed throughout this entire camp. And while he was careful with his wording, one name jumped out immediately: safety Quan Martin. Quinn didn't hesitate, describing a real energy and intensity radiating from this player, not just in practice and in games, but specifically in his special teams contributions as well. Quinn made it clear he genuinely feels this urgency from Martin in real time, praising his growing confidence and the way he's simply put his head down and gotten to work all camp long. When your head coach singles out a specific player unprompted like that, completely unprompted, that's the kind of praise Commanders fans should be taking very seriously heading into roster evaluations. All right, quick pause here before we keep rolling. If you're loving this behind-the-scenes breakdown of everything Dan Quinn had to say, please hit that subscribe button. We are working hard to reach 2,000 subscribers on this channel, and every single person watching right now has the power to help us get there. Okay, back to the presser because there's a lot more juicy stuff to cover. Quinn also fielded a genuinely important question about the challenges of heading into a physical joint practice with a roster that's currently dealing with a fair amount of bumps and bruises. His answer showed real thoughtfulness. The priority is simply not overloading players who are managing minor injuries, understanding that if this were a real regular season game, plenty of these guys would just be told to suit up and go. But in this specific evaluation window, the smarter approach is thinking about the full slate of games still ahead, not just this one practice period. He specifically credited his performance and sports science staff for helping guide those decisions, while emphasizing that above everything else, clear communication across the entire organization about where guys are at physically remains the most valuable piece of the puzzle. And when asked directly whether players working through minor soreness factors into specific position battle evaluations, Quinn's answer was blunt and honest: no, it doesn't. Because frankly, everybody on this roster is dealing with some level of soreness, fatigue, or nagging discomfort at this exact point in training camp. That's simply the nature of the grind. He drew a clear line, though. If a player were genuinely at risk of a more serious injury, the team simply wouldn't put them out there at all. The players who can handle the workload and do it correctly, they play through it. The ones who need closer monitoring so a minor issue doesn't escalate into something bigger, that's where Quinn says he leans entirely on his trusted medical staff to make the right call. There was also a specific injury update fans have been anxiously waiting on. Quinn confirmed one player is dealing with a lower body injury that occurred the day before the team traveled for their most recent game, and the good news is that he's reportedly doing well, currently working through his rehab process on the side of practice, with a chance fans could even see him out there in some capacity soon. Additionally, tight end Ben Sinnott's situation was addressed directly. Quinn confirmed Sinnott will not be ready for this week's session after injuring his oblique during the recent game. He's currently working through the early stages of his return to football progression, and while Quinn stopped short of ruling him out entirely for the preseason finale, missing practice time these past 2 days makes his availability for that final game genuinely unlikely. Now let's talk about a player every single Commanders fan has strong opinions about: rookie linebacker Sonny Styles. Quinn was asked directly about his takeaways from watching Styles play meaningful snaps across these first 2 preseason games, and his answer offered some genuinely encouraging specifics. Quinn specifically praised how square Styles plays at the linebacker position, explaining that when you're evaluating an in-the-box defender who hasn't been sent on a ton of downhill blitzes yet, you want to see a player capable of squaring up and taking on blocks with proper technique. Quinn noted Styles has done a genuinely nice job using his hands, which has been a specific coaching emphasis heading into this evaluation. He also praised Styles' command at the line of scrimmage, both getting the defense into calls and out of them when situations change, real evidence of the mental processing piece coming along, not just the physical traits everyone already knew about. But Quinn didn't stop there, adding an even more intriguing layer to the evaluation. Based on what he's personally seen in practice specifically, Quinn described feeling real speed and playmaking ability from Styles, the kind that allows him to reach difficult spots on the field that most players simply can't get to. Quinn even floated the idea that Styles' combination of pure speed and initial quickness could make him not just capable in man coverage, but potentially exceptional in zone coverage specifically, because unlike some fast players who need time to build up to top speed, Styles has that rare initial burst to close ground immediately. That's a genuinely exciting evaluation from the head coach himself, and it should give Commanders fans real reason for optimism about where this rookie linebacker's ceiling actually sits. Quinn was also asked to reflect on the team's conditioning level, referencing back to comments he made at the very start of training camp about wanting this roster in what he called crazy shape. And his answer painted a great picture of how that emphasis has actually played out on the practice field. He explained the clearest evidence comes during the longest padded periods and longest live drives of practice. That's when true conditioning reveals itself. Quinn described walking over to the huddle during those grueling stretches and seeing players still locked in, still ready for the next rep, rather than gassed and looking to come off the field. He noted there were very few instances all camp of a player needing to step away because they'd hit their physical limit. Last week represented the true peak of that training intensity, and Quinn made it clear he intentionally put this team's feet to the fire specifically to find out where they stood physically, and by his own account, they passed that test. Finally, Quinn closed with a really important structural point about how deep position groups like safety, linebacker, and wide receiver ultimately get whittled down to the initial 53-man roster. He was completely direct about it. Special teams contribution is absolutely critical to that process when evaluating whether a player has a legitimate role on the active roster. Special teams value is a major factor in that equation, and if a player doesn't offer anything there, it directly impacts how his overall developmental path and roster outlook gets viewed. Quinn credited his special teams coordinator with running a thorough evaluation process across practices, drills, and actual games to identify exactly what value different players can add. And he made a great point about how these evaluations sometimes reveal themselves in unexpected moments. A player who didn't necessarily stand out in practice suddenly flashing something valuable once the lights come on during an actual preseason game. That, Quinn explained, is exactly what this entire process is designed to uncover. So there you have it, Commanders Nation. A genuinely information-packed press conference as this team heads into the most important week of the entire preseason. Real optimism building around Quan Martin and Sonny Styles, some clarity, finally, on Ben Sinnott's timeline, and a great behind-the-scenes look at exactly how this coaching staff is approaching these final, crucial roster evaluations before cut-down day arrives. This Baltimore joint practice and preseason finale are going to matter enormously for a whole lot of players fighting for their NFL futures, and you better believe we'll be covering every single development as it happens. If you made it to the end of this breakdown, thank you seriously. Do me a favor, smash that like button. Drop a comment letting me know who you think is the biggest riser on this roster right now, Quan Martin or Sonny Styles, and if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. We are chasing down 2,000 subscribers on this channel, and every single one of you watching has the power to help us get there. Every subscriber gets us one step closer to bringing you even deeper Commanders coverage all season long. So don't wait, subscribe, like, comment, and let's build this thing together. Until next time, Commanders fans, hail to the Commanders.